very good afternoon. This is Avinindra Som and you're listening to the news in detail on Gold FM.
The news headlines
on Gold FM.
In your news headlines, electricity tariff revision announcement today. 5% impact on Sri Lankan exports due to war, says EDB chairman. Sri Lanka needs a growth-oriented reserve build-up. US eyeing a ground operation to extract kilograms of uranium. Trump faced seizure of car while hinting at rapid peace deal.
The top story on Gold FM.
The Public Utilities Commission will announce the new electricity tariff revision for the second quarter of this year. A press conference scheduled for 2 p.m. today will detail the upcoming changes. The revisions are based on the proposal submitted by the Ceylon Electricity Board, seeking a 13.56% increase from April to June. In its report to the PUCSL, the CEB argued that the hike is essential to ensure financial stability and maintain the reliability of the national power supply. According to the CEB, the tariff review is primarily driven by a significant projected revenue deficit of 15.8 billion rupees for the period between April and June 2026. According to the board's submission, the total estimated cost of providing electricity during these 3 months will reach 136.5 billion rupees. However, it is noted that the current tariff structure is expected to generate only 116.8 billion rupees in revenue. Prior to this, the CEB proposed 11.5% revision for the first quarter. However, the Public Utilities Commission announced that electricity tariffs will remain unchanged, stating that the CEB failed to submit a formal tariff revision proposal on time.
This is the local news on Gold FM.
The Export Development Board said that the ongoing Middle East war caused a 5% decline in national export activities during March. Taking this situation into account, Chairman of the Board, Mangala Vijay Singha, said that officials are now focusing on expanding export promotions to the US, Great Britain and European nations. He said this while speaking to Hero News, and in the interest of clarity, we refrain from dubbing his remarks.
මුල් සති දෙකට සාපේක්ෂව බැලුවොත් මේ වෙනකොට විශේෂයෙන් දුබායි රාජ්‍ය අතුරු රාජ්‍ය වලට අපි ෆ්ලයිට් ඔපරේෂන් එක දැන් පටන් ගන්න තියෙනවා. නැව් ගමනාගමනයේ විශේෂයෙන්ම අපිට ඩිරෙක්ට්ලි යන්න බැරි වුණාට ඒක වක්‍රාකාරයේ රටවලට ළඟා වීම තියෙනවා. හැබැයි මේ හින්දා අපගේ අපනයනකරුවන්ට කලින්ට සාපේක්ෂව ගත්තොත් පෙර මාස වලට වඩා වැඩිපුර පිරිවැයක් දරන්න සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙන නව් ගාස්තු ඒ වගේම රක්ෂණ ගාස්තු සම්බන්ධයෙන්. ඒක අතිරේක කොස්ට් එකක් අපිට දරන්න දෙලා සිටින අපනයනකරුවන්ට. හැබැයි සමස්තයක් වශයෙන් ගත්තොත් මෙහි බලපෑම ලංකාවේ අපනයන ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයට ගත්තොත් අපි හිතනවා 5ක විතර ප්‍රමාණයක් එල්ල වෙන්න පුළුවන් මාර්තු මාසයේදී. මොකද අපි කටයුතු කරමින් ඉන්න ලංකාවේ මැදිපෙරට කලාපයට වඩා අනිකුත් රටවලට ලංකාවේ අපනයනය ප්‍රවර්ධනය කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් විශේෂයෙන්ම යුරෝපීය රටවල්, එක්සත් රාජධානිය හා ඇමරිකාව හා අනිකුත් අප්‍රිකානු රටවල්, ඒ වගේම ආසියානු රටවල් අපනයනය වැඩි දියුණු කිරීමට.
Commissioner General of Agrarian Development Dhammika Ranatunga announced a new QR code system to facilitate fuel distribution for the farming community. He said this while speaking at a press conference organised by the Department of Government Information. Further, the department confirmed that farmers now must obtain all necessary fertilizer exclusively through agrarian service centres. The Department of Irrigation warned of a growing risk of saltwater intrusion into river basins if current dry weather conditions persist. Water levels in the Kalani, Kaluging and Nilwala rivers remain vulnerable to seawater mixing, which could affect local water supplies. Director of Hydrology and Disaster Management L.S. Surya Bandara confirmed that the measures are put in place to mitigate this environmental threat, and in the interest of clarity, once again we refrain from dubbing his remarks.
කැලණිගඟේ ජල ගලා යාමේ ප්‍රමාණයේ සැලකියුතු අඩුවීමක් පෙන්වුම් කරනවා. ඒ අනුව తాවකාලික කාර්යදී ඇතුළු වීම වළක්වා ගැනීම සඳහා වූ ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ජල සම්පාදන මණ්ඩලය අරගෙන තියෙනවා. ජලාශවල සහ ගංගාවල ජල මට්ටම් අනුව පානීය ජලය සැපයීමේ ප්‍රමාණාත්මකව ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. හැබැයි ඇතැම් විට අධික ඉල්ලුම නිසා ඒ පද්ධතියේ ධාරිතාවයේ ප්‍රමාණවත්ද කියන එක තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ.
Now, moving on in more local news, the central bank's current inflation approach is ineffective as far as growth is concerned. Further, the government should take necessary measures to broaden the tax base without trying to impose more taxes. This view was expressed by former Minister of Finance Ravi Karunanayake. Addressing a panel discussion themed fiscal discipline and inclusive growth, pathways to sustainable development, the opposition parliamentarian is critical of the view that too much independence is not suitable for the central bank.
The central bank is pursuing an anti-inflationary approach, forgetting the growth aspect. My belief is, I have been a vocal critic that the independence of the central bank has not been to the best of us. It's absolutely necessary to have independence, but not to the extent that you have a fiscal run by the elected president of the country who also and the monetary aspect completely divorced, which has no connection to the people who elect. That is the independent central bank. Now, this central bank, after having the independence, has lost its last 6 quarters, have been off the mark. Now, why I am coming and harping on to that is, we need growth. We need the supply side growth. We need to have low capital given to give motivation aspect to the small and medium and to the entrepreneurs. I don't see that happening. If you are, in order to get to those, we need to. Public Financial Management Act ensures that the financial discipline that we have got to, you can only spend 13% of the GDP. You can only spend if you grow the GDP. In order to grow the GDP, the central bank must open the financial aspect of it, the monetary aspect. That is being pursued on an anti-inflationary approach. So where is the growth factor that can come?
Karunanayake commented on why he believes that the tax base needs further broadening.
I think if you look at, there are 243,000 companies in the register of companies, but only 33,000 pay taxes. So it just shows that the broad basing of our taxes needs to be done. I'm a believer that we are overtaxed the people. My feeling is that there should be a great reduction. So my belief is that we should reduce the taxes to a manageable proportion, because there's no point we taxing when it's ill-affordable. Willing to pay but unable to afford is the present day situation. So further taxing the existing only puts us into a devious situation. I believe that pushing it in the range of 15 to 17.5% and ensuring that we broad base, we can get far greater than what it is. The SMEs at the moment, on a 100 rupee sale, 33% goes straight to the government. So where is the motivational aspect for those guys to come forward and move? So I believe that is the first radical change that is there.
The National Democratic Front parliamentarian also highlighted the need to remove para tariffs.
The para tariffs to be taken off. This has been something with the IMF and the ADB has been pushing. In order to get the 620 million financing line, it's being phased out in 4 years. My belief is take it much in different way. Ensure that we reduce the taxes, reduce the situation to a 5% tax, make it a more duty-free oriented approach. This is the best time. We are today Middle East in crisis. We have low-hanging fruit. We should go after the port of Sri Lanka, which is one of the best geography located places. Middle East in made the crisis. Use dry ports and get things moving now. We use the Mattala airport as another investment point by the Middle East. So these are matters that have got to be done.
Finally, Karunanayake pointed out the necessity of a growth-oriented reserve build-up.
When the last government handed over to the present, I think the reserves are 6.3 and that has moved up to 7. But is that 7.3 reserve sustainable? No. Of that, 2.5 billion cannot be used. There is still about 2 billion that is left in the IMF and other institutions. And the worst that is there, the reserves are built up on commercial bank swaps, which are not more than 6 months. So if you digress into the real situation, we need to have a more growth-oriented reserve build-up rather than just borrow short-term with a hot money that is creating only to ease the situation.
Moving on in more local news, authorities took custody of alleged organised criminal Prabhat Madhushankar alias Midhigama Chuti following his extradition from Oman. The suspect arrived in the country early this morning under international red notices for murder, armed robbery and drug trafficking. Investigators seek a 90-day detention order to question him regarding his role as a key associate for an alleged criminal known as Harak Kata. Police reports indicate Mehdi Gamachuti previously escaped from Malaysia to Oman, where security forces eventually apprehended him at a luxury hotel. Despite his claim of a heart condition prior to deportation, medical examinations confirmed he remains fit for travel and interrogation. In more local news, Commissioner General of Motor Traffic Kamal Amarasinghe is further remanded until the 10th of April. The order was issued after the suspect was produced before the Mawatagama Pilassa Magistrates Court today. The CID arrested the official on charges of aiding and abetting the alteration of a vehicle chassis number and the creation of fraudulent registration documents for a cab.
Now for some news in brief.
"125 Chinese nationals who were detained at the Department of Immigration and Immigration for operating online financial scams were deported today.
The business news on Gold FM.
Sri Lanka's unit trust industry maintained a steady position through February, with assets under management rising slightly to 609 billion rupees. Data shows a 4% year-on-year growth driven by a doubling in the value of equity-linked funds. Investor participation also surged, with over 2,000 new unit holders joining the market in a single month. Unit Trust Association President Jeevan Sukumaran noted the performance reflects a gradual shift towards more balanced and long-term investment allocations. Batik Air flight operations between Colombo and Kuala Lumpur recommenced today. A flight with 62 passengers and 4 staff members on board arrived at the Bandaranaike International Airport. The airport correspondent reported the flight returned to Kuala Lumpur at 2:05 a.m. carrying 160 passengers. The airline will operate 4 days per week between Kuala Lumpur and Colombo.
International news on Gold FM.
US President Donald Trump says the United States is considering a military operation to seize Iran's primary oil terminal on Karg Island and extract 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium from the country. Speaking on Air Force One, Trump claimed the US already achieved regime change because many Iranian leaders were killed in the month-long conflict. While he suggested a peace deal could be reached fairly quickly, he also warned that the US remains prepared to, quote, blow them off, unquote, if negotiations fail. The military threat intensified as Israel launched fresh strikes against military infrastructure in Tehran this morning. In response, the Israeli Defense Forces identified retaliatory missiles launched from Iran, triggering sirens and forcing civilians into protected spaces. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf warned that Tehran is waiting for American ground troops to arrive so it can rain fire upon them. The escalating regional war claimed more international lives after Indonesia confirmed the death of a UN peacekeeper in Lebanon following indirect artillery fire. Over in Kuwait, a worker from India died during an Iranian strike on a power and desalination plant. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Defense reported intercepting 5 ballistic missiles over its eastern region as the conflict continues to disrupt global markets.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Acclaimed stage and screen actress Mary Beth Hurt died following a battle with Alzheimer's disease. The Iowa-born performer earned the Tony nominations during a prolific career and starred in cinematic staples such as Woody Allen's Interiors and The World According to Garp. Her husband, writer-director Paul Schrader, and daughter Molly confirmed her passing in a joint statement, noting she faced her roles with grace and ferocity.
Sports news on Gold FM.
The Sri Lanka national cricket team prepares for a comprehensive multi-format tour of the West Indies scheduled for June and July. The campaign begins on the 3rd of June with a 3-match one-day international series, followed by a 2020 series starting on the 11th of June. The tour concludes with 2 test matches, the first of which kicks off on the 25th of June. The final test match begins on the 3rd of July, marking the end of the bilateral series. And that's all the news for now. Stay tuned to Gold FM for the latest updates. This is Avinindra Soma for Gold FM News.